G'day, wonderful listeners. This is episode 56 of Trev's Talk, and I'm your host, Trev. Last week, I left off talking about my book, which readers have told me is interesting and worth a read. Since last week, I gave a talk on Medjugorje to a Christian group at a little church I deliver meals to, so they can put one in each food hamper they distribute to needy families. Not one member of that group had ever heard of Medjugorje, even though the phenomenon has been going on since 1981, and there have been 50 million visitors to the village during those years. See how important it is for people like me who have visited there and had experiences with the Holy Spirit there to do their very best to get the word out that Mary, Mother of Jesus, is appearing there. Since last episode, several things have taken place. One of these things was getting a call from a friend called Rodney, a man who uses my Medj water to ease the suffering pain from his teeth and has been doing so for many years now. He swears he gets help from the Medj water and always rings me for more when his supply runs low. Rodney mentioned in our conversation that he was going to do a music gig on a radio station called Radio Dadaa. Rod does painting, writing and poetry on the fringe, so to speak. He uses materials and words differently to mainstream authors and artists. I had never heard of Radio Dadaa, but a day or two after Rod talking about it, I had the urge to see if I could bring it up on my computer by Googling, and sure enough, it popped up. It seems Radio Dadaa is a station that helps people with disabilities get into radio or podcasting, as well as playing music. Now, I don't know whether you are a new listener or someone who has followed my podcast from the start, but about 15 months ago, I did a radio presenters course with Radio Fremantle 107.9 with the view that I might get into radio to speak about the Medjugorje phenomenon. However, when I finished the course, I decided that what I wanted to do was more suitable to podcasting and set about creating this Trev's Talk podcast. I made that decision when I learned that Radio Fremantle's producer was wanting more music shows, and my idea of a show was mostly talk. Storytelling and interviewing on air sort of thing. So, the upshot was, I started podcasting my journey with the spiritual world, where I try to give my story in such a way that I bring my listeners along that journey with me. When looking up Radio Dadaa, I noticed their aim of using people with disabilities where it was possible to do so. I thought it coincidental that Rodney should ring me for more Medj water, and when I got to his place, he started talking about a gig he was going to do with Radio Dadaa. At first, I thought, what a weird name for a radio station. It could not be a serious broadcaster. So, looked it up and found its desire to uplift and dignify people with disabilities by training them to do a radio show. I liked that attitude. I thought it really cool. And then I thought that if Our Lady had led me to learn about Radio Dadaa and its involvement with people with disabilities, maybe she was leading me to see if I could get a show on that radio station. Getting a show about Medjugorje on radio that dignified disabled would be just Our Lady's way. the wonderful, uplifting spiritual phenomenon of Medjugorje rising up into the public from the depths of a radio station manned by people with various disabilities, I must just say that sounds like a plan that Our Lady would design. Then I remembered my history of disability. I had mental impairment through schizophrenia for 9 years in the past, from 1992 to 2001. I would be eligible to have a show on Radio Dadaa if I should apply. So I googled around on my computer and found some sites listing the radio station, and blow me away if one of those sites didn't have downloadable application forms prospective volunteers could fill out and send into the station's producer. So, I'm sure you've guessed by now, I went ahead and submitted an application and now wait to see if I hear from them. I will be surprised if I don't hear, because my radio presenter's course with Radio Fremantle and my year of podcasting experience should give me a good chance to be given an interview at least. Remember from previous episodes that I am waiting on an appeal hearing with the Administration Review Tribunal next month. I am appealing against the Aviation Authority, CASA, refusing me a medical clearance to fly planes. I came to think, why wait for another refusal from them? Why not submit now to the Equal Opportunities Commission my complaint of discrimination due to CASA's enforcement of the safety rules in such a harsh manner? So I did that. I went ahead and lodged my complaint, and they have informed me that I will hear from them within 21 days if my complaint comes under the EOC law of equal opportunity for people with mental or physical impairment. So that is now a matter of wait and see. I've met with Phil, my friend from Toyota, and he is approaching the boss there to see if he can get me some support towards the admin of the Medjugorje Centre charity. I offer them advertising on our minibus for an annual fee. So that's another wait and see. I've also made inquiries at Sea Lanes to see if Jonathan is still boss there. He used to support our charity by advertising on our minibus, but I lost contact with him when the COVID pandemic forced me and my volunteers to leave the Aboriginal school. I thought if Jonathan was still boss, I might be able to persuade him to support the Scholarship Fund project. But when I asked reception at Sea Lanes, they informed me he was no longer with them. So bad luck with that idea. I did have success though when I asked Archbishop Kay of the Anglican Diocese for a meeting so I can more fully explain to her the idea of and the strategy of establishing the Moorditj Scholarship Fund project. She had already agreed to redirect the Anglican annual contribution from the Moorditj Food Patrol to the Scholarship Fund. That contribution is already in the bank, but I've yet to explain how the fund works into the future in giving a hand up to Aboriginal kids, and how financial support will need to increase as scholarships are awarded to more kids each year. When I asked for a meeting with Anglican Archbishop Kay, her personal assistant confirmed that she said okay to that, and would I like the meeting to be nearer my suburb rather than driving into the city. Wow, I thought. How cool is that? Maybe I should be bold and ask for the meeting to be at my humble office. There would be no worry about parking then, so I emailed my request to meet at my office, and wow, the Archbishop agreed. My office is situated in Swan View, and Archbishop Kay's office is deep in the heart of Perth. Her acceptance to come to me, instead of me going to her, was a huge benefit to me. Driving into Perth and trying to get a parking is a nightmare. Travelling into Perth by train and catching buses to Archbishop Kay's office building is not much better. So, her agreement to come to my office was really cool. Also, I will be more at ease and have everything needed to explain the Scholarship Fund project near to hand. Well, wonderful listeners, that's it for this week. I will have news next week regarding how my meeting goes with Auxiliary Bishop Don. I feel sure he will come fully on board as a co-founder to the Scholarship Fund project and give me a reference I can use to show the salvos, which will help me coax them into becoming a co-founder number 4. This is Trev, tuning out.